Basic Linux commands. In this lecture, I'm going to cover basic and most often used commands in Linux. Commands are case sensitive. So for example, if you type in a command called cd, and if you're typing in uppercase, it will not work. Most of the Linux commands are lowercase, so that shouldn't be a problem. But just in case you type in an uppercase C or an uppercase D or any command with an uppercase, it will not work for you because it's case sensitive. Most of the commands are lowercase, so when you type in CD, it will work if it's in lowercase. Some of these commands that we're going to cover is the first one is CD. It stands for changes the directory. Whatever directory you're in, if you want to change it, CD will let you do that. We will also look at the terminal and use these commands so you can have a better understanding. Next is the ls. ls lists directory contents. Next is cat. Cat concatenates, meaning it displays the contents of the file. pwd stands for print working directory. It shows your current directory. Man stands for man pages. It's an online manual. It's to find any help within Linux, and we will cover it shortly on the terminal. Clear, as the name suggests, when you type clear, it will clear your screen. Exit, it exits the shell or your current session that you're currently in. Let's move on to the terminal so I can show you how they actually work. So first thing we'll do here is we will open up a terminal. Currently, I have opened up a desktop Ubuntu Linux session, and it just looks like Windows. So if you've never used command line interface Linux before, or if you've never used Linux through command line terminal, this will give you a good idea of the comparison between them and how it works. So if you have a graphical interface, just like the one I'm using, in most of the distros, you will have this icon here that you can click on. It searches your computer. When you click on that, you type in terminal, and in most of the distros, it will come up with something like a terminal. When you click on it, it will launch your terminal. You can also drag it and drop it and create it as your shortcuts. So, for example, I have a shortcut here for the terminal. So let me click on that, and it will open up our terminal. Let me move it down a little bit. Now, to look at our first command is going to be ls. ls does is lists the directory contents. So it basically tells you what's under a particular directory. So for example, directory in Windows, you will call it a folder. In Linux, it's known as a directory. So this folder is basically a directory in Linux. When you double click on it, it opens up that directory and you can see what's in that directory. But how do you do that from a command line? To show you, let's go back to our terminal and we will type in the command ls. And before I type that in, let me just make sure you know that Linux is case sensitive. So any commands you type in are going to be case sensitive. The good thing is most of the Linux commands are lowercase, so you should not have a whole lot of problem. But just know that Linux is case sensitive, and everything that you're typing in, make sure you're typing it in the correct case, including file names and directory names, etc. So we'll start with ls. Once I type ls, I will hit enter. Once I hit enter, it will show me exactly what's listed in this directory. And that is how you can see what's listed in your directory by using the ls command. So in this case, let's just go back to the other folder, the graphical interface folder. And for example, this is where we are. We're currently on the desktop. So let me move on to the next command so you can have a better idea. The next command is cd, which changes your directory. So for example, currently we see all these desktop, downloads, music, these directories. When we do ls, what if we wanted to move to desktop? So if I type in cd and do a desktop, and you'll see a slash after that, that means it's a directory. If I hit enter, it will change my directory and move me to the directory called desktop. And The other command that we just used was ls. Let's use that. Hit enter. As you can see, there's a file listed in here called test. Actually, it shows test, but since the color is blue, in some Ubuntu distros it will be displayed in a color, or in some it won't. In our case it is. It's showing in blue because it's a directory. If it was a file, it would be in white or a different color. So let's move into that directory. If we do cd again and type in test, hit enter, it's going to take us to the directory test. Let's do an ls here to see what's listed in here. As you can see, there's a file called 1 in here, and there's a directory called new dir listed in here, which is what we looked at here. So let me click on that again. When we clicked on the directory called test, it showed us what's in the directory test. Again, it's new dir and file 1. So let's go back to the terminal. It's also showing us the same result. So this is how you can move around in command line Linux as opposed to when you have a graphical interface. It just takes some used to and learning the commands, but I'm pretty sure you'll get very familiar with it shortly and start using it occasionally, and then you'll learn how to move within Linux much faster. The reason for that is these commands, they may seem cumbersome when you can just click on a directory like I did on test and open it up, and now you have to type in cd and know where you're going. But command line Linux, there's a lot of things that get easier just because, for example, when you need to create a file um, in a regular graphical interface, you right click and you open up a file, or you copy a file, or you delete a file. You can see what you're doing, but you can only do one at a time. On command line, you can create 100 files just by running one file, one command. And that's the difference. It just makes things much easier, especially when you're working as an administrator. So enough on that. Let's move on to our third command, which is cat. What cat does is, well, let's go back to the graphical interface and let's look at this file. So we have a file called 1 in here. If we double click on it, this file will open, and then you can see what's listed in this file. Easy, that's how graphical interface works. Let me close out of that. How would you do that on a Linux terminal? How you do that is by using the cat command. So I'm going to type in cat, and the file we want to open is 1. Hit enter, and it shows the contents of the files on your screen. Again, as we saw when we opened it earlier, the only line that was listed in there was learning Linux is fun. And that's how you can display the contents of the file in command line. Let's move on to the next command, which is pwd. Pwd stands for print working directory. So in case you're lost, you don't know where you currently are, and you need to move to a different directory, it will tell you the location, your current location, which directory you're currently in. So let me type in pwd, hit enter. As you can see, it's giving you a full path of where you currently are. It's showing us /home, /test, /desktop, and /test directory that we're currently in, which is this one. And that's how pwd works. Um, Moving on to the next command, which is man. So let me type in man and hit enter. Man stands for manual pages. When you type in just man, it doesn't really do anything. It's saying, what manual page do you want to look at? Well, I need to get some help on ls. So the command we just ran, ls, let's find help on that. Let's find man pages on ls. So you type in man space ls, hit enter. When you do that, it will start displaying you help for the command ls. In case you forgot how the ls command works, you can just type in man space ls and it will show you what it does. For example, right on top it says name ls list directory contents. That's what that command does. and there's a lot more information about many different commands within the man pages, and this is very useful when you forget something. It's hard to remember all the commands, so when you forget something you can always come back within Linux and use man to find information about a particular command. If you want to scroll down, you will hit the space bar and it will show you the next pages, and you can keep scrolling down until you read the whole document depending on what you're looking for. To quit out of it, as you can see what's displayed on the screen at the bottom, Q to quit. So I'm going to press Q and quit out of man pages. This is how man pages work. Next is the clear command. The clear command clears your screen. As you can see on the command line, I've typed in so many commands and the screen is kind of cluttered. I kind of want to get rid of it. So what I will do is I will just type in clear, hit enter, and everything is gone. It helps you just clear the screen out. And the next command is exit. If I type in exit, hit enter, it will exit my current session and the terminal is closed. If you were using PuTTY or directly logging on to the terminal, it will exit the shell or your current session. I hope these few commands were helpful to you, and we'll use a lot more variations and a lot more advanced commands later on in this course.